the library is a community gathering place. That's what we constantly are striving to do.
It's a great place to be because I tutor reading and there's lots of books here. We also sometimes have to do research here, which is great. There's internet access.
The library is one of the reasons that Horsham was recently voted, or in the last couple of years voted, as one of the top towns in the United States to live because of the library and the great park system that we have.
The library, which is 10 years old this November, has had a huge impact of our quality of life in Horsham. It is the hub of activity in the township.
I grew up in Abington and in Cheltenham, went to school in Lynchburg. Everybody else had a library except Horsham. And we had so many people asking, why don't we have a library?
Aside from the community watering hole, if you would, that's an important question that we had to address early on in the process to gather support of the people that were sitting on the fence.
There is no one center of Horsham geographically and or as a community gathering point. So the library was designed and created as to address those needs. There's a focal point. This is the focal point.
Having a library seemed like one of those things that we should have as a growing township to provide, to the residents on top of everything else that we had already offered.
The library in the school had very limited hours, very limited access. The teachers, the community at large, were very supportive of a library. I mean, a library as we see it today.
Families can order materials from any Montgomery County library to have delivered right to the Horsham Library. So they have access to a much larger collection than we have here at school, including audiobooks and ebooks.
This library also has a really good listening library. So if I have a student who's having trouble with reading, I'll suggest they come to the library and get the book as a book form and also on cassette, yes, cassette, or CD, so that they can listen to it at the same time that they read, and that really helps struggling readers.
I think having a library in the community is important. And it's not just about the books, but the programs and kids. A lot of kids come and study here. They get to read. They experience a lot of different things. It's a safe place to go.
There were petitions taken by residents over the course of 10 or 15 years that they had submitted requesting a library. When we were putting an addition on the municipal building back in 1989, another petition was presented that asked for us to add space for a library.
I came out to visit, to look at the space and to give Mr. McGee some idea of whether it would be suitable for a library. And I think at the time I told him it was a little too small for an independent library, but it might be operated as a branch of a larger library. And I even put together some cost figures, but the idea never progressed any further.
Mary Deere, Bill Walker, and I sat down after a board meeting, and the idea of building a library in a township came up. And we asked Bill if he would bring it before the members of council and see if we could get some support.
Around the time that I got elected to council, the ballot question for the library passed. So it was a project that I was interested in. And at the time, there was, I won't say skepticism, but there were a fairly large group of people in town that thought we really needed a library for all of the obvious reasons. But there was another group that thought, well, with the advent of the internet and things with schools and all of the other things, there might not be so much of a need for a library, and why should we spend tax dollars to build one?
When you start talking about taxes, it brings out a lot of emotion. So there were many people, fortunately the minority, that were in fact a very strong negative.
We got a lot of pushback initially, especially from seniors, and it was ironic because these were the people that I thought would use the library more frequently than others, and as it turns out, they do. I thought at that time that a lot of seniors would really benefit if they had somebody here at the library that could teach them about the internet, and we had computers here that they could access. And I also thought it would really help support, a blue ribbon school district to have a library where the students could come in and use it as a place to study.
Fortunately, the referendum was passed after a lot of hard work by a lot of people. And next thing we knew was groundbreaking.
We solicited proposals from a lot of architectural firms. We visited a lot of libraries.
We actually eventually went with the local group, the Vitetta group, and then they came back to us with a series of designs based on the modernism, the functionality, the expandability, and that was how we picked that.
One of my goals was that the library would be intuitive. It's a goal that I have in each of my library design projects, and it's wonderful to be able to start with a fresh slate, with a completely new building. A lot of times we're working with old libraries that are challenging.
The physical building is something that grew out of the feasibility study, the characteristics in it, and I think the architect did a really good job of realizing the narrative and the elements that people in the community identified.
We did have some design challenges with the site, with the orientation of the site and with the setback requirements and with some structures that were in a way in front of the building. The goal was really to be able to clearly see where you would enter the building, come into the building and feel welcomed immediately, and to be able to basically, without a lot of explanation or guidance, see or understand where you might go, at least if it's not completely clear, where you would go to find the things that you were looking for. They wanted the library to really be a landmark building for Horsham, the one civic building that would be seen as a community and civic landmark. This building actually has over 10,000 square feet of its 25,000 square feet that is free of structure. So in terms of internal columns. So that 10,000 square foot square essentially, which is what most of the people use when they visit the library, furniture is able to be freely moved around, and that provides the flexibility for the future. I think our vision, our design vision for the landscaping in its relationship to the building was to be complementary to the building and to be natural to this part of Pennsylvania, so we were not introducing plants and species that would not be natural to this environment, hence they would also thrive and do well here.
It's always a challenge to build the biggest and the best you can afford, but yet stay within budget. So, every piece of this, whether it was the shelving, whether it was the furniture, the flooring, the internal design of some of these things, we had to review each little piece to make sure it was everything we hoped it would be, but yet make sure we could afford it. So at the end of the day, we stayed within the budget that we were allotted. A lot of construction costs are always, you put it out, you get bids, and then there's a million changes. So you have to wrestle with that day in and day out, again, to make sure you get what you bought, but you still keep it within the budget that you're allotted. So they were the biggest challenges, but I think we got there.
We wanted to get it done quick. We had a time frame. Of course, municipal governments have to go out to bid and deal with all those issues, but no major issues. It was for the most part for a new building construction. It was pretty easy.
This library was constructed with, I believe it was around 1% of change orders, which is extremely low. There were the normal challenges of materials, lead times, but all in all, the project manager for the construction firm was quite good, and the construction was completed on schedule, or very, very close to the original targeted schedule, and it was completed on budget.
Hello everyone. On behalf of all the members of Horsham Council, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our honored guests. We're delighted that you've taken the time from your busy schedule to participate in this ceremony, marking the grand opening of our library.
I remember there was a large crowd that came out for the grand opening. 25,000 square foot building, which was just tremendous. We had a lot of staff, a lot of administration on hand, a big crowd from around the community that were just anxious to get in and see, exactly what we were able to do with this new beautiful looking library that they saw from the outside. They were finally able to get in and see what we were able to do and accomplish for the community.
The definition for architecture. Noun, the profession of designing buildings and environments with consideration for their aesthetic effect. That's the first definition. Definition number 2, an architectural product or work. Definition number 3, the discipline dealing with the principles of design and construction and ornamentation of fine buildings. And I really liked this example, and with this I close. Architecture and eloquence are mixed arts whose end is sometimes beauty and sometimes use. Enjoy your library.
It was a great celebration. It was wonderful to see this being the first time that there was a public library, or is a public library, in the township of Horsham in its over 300 years of existence. There was a lot of excitement, and there was, as I recall, a very good attendance.
If it was only a building we were after, that would have been very easy to do. More important than the building, and indeed it is important, is the people that are going to be utilizing the services and the people that will be providing those services.
I've had a lot of proud moments serving the residents of Horsham Township. One of the most frightening experiences I had was, gee, we just spent $6 million of their money. What could be worse than spending that money as if nobody showed up, if it didn't get used? So after the ribbon cutting ceremony, there were people lined up to get in after the ribbon cutting ceremony. So that was day one. I felt a sigh of relief. But as the days grew longer, or more time expanded, after a month, I mean, it was a given. Like, the issue was, what took us so long?
We have really wonderful spaces, not just for books and computers and programs, but areas where we can set up toys for creative play. So one of the things you're going to see in our library when you come into the children's area is a place where there are blocks and puzzles and climbing toys and puppets and stuffed toys and noisy children. Because in fact, when children are very young, one of the ways they learn is through play. The other thing that you see is a very large meeting room that can be subdivided into smaller spaces. And that was a really important element too, because the community has a lot of community-based organizations, youth sports, dog park board, political committees, social service committees, a variety of organizations with volunteers who are all looking for places to meet and to do their programs. There's a very nice large-sized teen room. Back when the library was being planned, one of the largest groups in the school district were 7th graders. And so we know that families with young children are eventually going to be families with teenagers, and teenage services were important for that. We have areas of computers where people can access the internet, they can use word processing and graphics programs, they can work on resumes, they can surf the internet, they can do a variety of things, and a nice collection too. We hope that there's an appealing collection of books and audiovisual materials as well. Once the library was open, they became a really strong supporter, providing programming, providing funding for the summer reading programs that we do, and providing advocacy throughout the community. And those are a great group of folks that work on a lot of the special things we do. They put together our book sales. They put together a lot of our adult programming.
We buy other things that they request, and just sponsor programs and things that, that the library benefits from and the patrons of the library benefit from, just to make it a better place to come.
One of the groups, and I joined right away, was the Friends of the Horsham Library. And we do a lot of things here at the library, and we raise money to fill in the gaps in the funding, so the library is the most up-to-date and can provide the best service to the community. We've had author events and cooking classes, how to repair things, financial information. We also provide all the goodies for the summer reading programs, and it's just been fun. It's a great group of people. We work real hard, and we love the library.
We have people coming from other townships that don't have libraries and other townships that do have libraries, because the contents here are phenomenal, the atmosphere is great, the staff is very friendly.
Okay, well, we're fortunate to be neighbors with the Horsham Library, and our students and their families use the library frequently.
I grew up going to the library where I lived, and I loved going to the library. I love books and I love reading, and I think it's important that kids today have that as a resource.
It's an exciting place. It's lively, it's energetic. The families, all ages are there. It's just a nice place to visit in the township.
I'm proud of the fact that it's used to the extent that it's used. Often all the rooms are filled, the cafeteria in the front is filled. I understand that there are times when it's extremely difficult to get a booking here to actually use the facility because it's full.
I think the most popular thing that the township has ever done is the creation of this library.
This was like looking ahead for the future, to make sure that this building was going to look great, not just then, but 20 years from now.
The community is a wonderful community. It's very supportive. It really appreciates the library a lot. And when you feel as though your job is appreciated, you love to come to work every day.
And it's a great place, it's a great resource, great asset for Horsham, and I'm proud and hope that it stays around for much longer after I'm gone. So
Proud to be a part of the library, and proud to be a resident of Horsham. That's it.